Okay.
I am going to get going. Welcome to all of you. My name is Florence Miller. I run something in the United Kingdom called the Environmental Funders Network. And we are a network for trusts and foundations and individual donors who support environmental causes in the UK, but also all over the world. And part of our mission is to grow the pie for environmental causes, by which I mean increase the amounts of funding going to environmental causes. And we particularly love the Conservation Collective, which is the overarching umbrella for the two funds you're going to hear from today, because we feel they do a brilliant job of that. They really tap into people's love of particular areas and help grow the pie through love of place. And each of their funds is a sort of example, I think, a really great example of a listening organisation, an organisation that is in a community listening on the ground to what people think needs to be funded and done. So you're going to hear some of their stories today. I'm going to pass over to Jade Brudenell, who runs the Conservation Collective, the umbrella organisation overall. And her role is to sort of make sure that all of them are sharing best practices with one another and being the best organisations they can be. And she will then pass on to Rebecca Morris, who runs the Menorca Preservation Fund, and Annie, Annie, I knew I was going to butcher your surname, I'm so sorry. Annie
Mitropoulou, no worries.
at the
no worries at all.
Preservation Fund, so that you can hear from both of them. Rebecca was brought up and educated in Menorca. She then spent 12 years or so in the UK and then around the world working for different NGOs before returning to Menorca to have her family there. And she's really excited to be running, I can imagine, the Menorca Preservation Fund. And Annie, likewise, has worked for many years with Greek and international NGOs and foundations in environmental and cultural management, sustainable development, local engagement, and so on. So she's based in Athens, travels regularly to the islands, and has a life that many of us would like to lead, I imagine. So
That's a dream job.
I shall pass over to Jade and be quiet until we take questions. So they'll all speak and then we'll take questions at the end. So feel free to write your questions in the chat box, or there'll be an opportunity to unmute yourself at the end. Thanks, Jade.
Thanks, Florence. Hi, everyone. I'm Jade. I'm the Executive Director of the Conservation Collective. As Florence mentioned, we're a network of place-based environmental philanthropic funds and foundations, which grew from our natural human instinct to protect the place that we love, where we live, where we go on holiday, or bring up our children, or run our business, for example. This network of 12 funds enables hyper-local conservation coupled with world-class oversight, management, and program aid. Each fund is run by a local executive director who identifies the best partners, projects, campaigns, and initiatives designed to protect, sustain, and restore the natural world around them, both on land and at sea. So some of the successes enabled by the projects we support that we are particularly proud of include developing sustainable whale watching businesses in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, including arranging exchange programs with former whalers committed to transforming to more sustainable livelihoods to in fact visit other whale watching businesses and on exchange programs in Buenos Aires and Boston. Another one would be stopping oil drilling in the pristine waters around Ibiza and Formentera, thanks to the creation of an alliance of key stakeholders. And lastly, reducing the amount of plastic used in agriculture in Mallorca by replacing it with bioplastics made of potato starch. And the list is limitless, but these are just a few examples. So shortly, I'll hand over to Rebecca and Annie, who run the Cyclades and Menorca Preservation Funds, which both started giving out grants in early 2018. But I just quickly wanted to explain the common approach of these funds in our network. So Ben Goldsmith, who I think may be on the call or not, we'll see, was part of a group of friends who set up Ibiza Preservation over 10 years ago. And with a lifetime of experience and a deep passion and commitment to environmental philanthropy, Ben soon spotted the potential of this successful model to strengthen support for effective grassroots environmental action, and importantly, to open new channels of funding from people who aren't the usual suspects in terms of those who give to the environment. And this was, as Florence alluded to, by linking the cause and problem to a place that they feel strongly about protecting. So in the last 5 years, together with small groups of energetic and dedicated, committed supporters, several of you on this call, Ben and I have encouraged this successful model to be replicated far and wide across the Greek islands, Sri Lanka, Barbados, and most recently and more closer to home for us, Devon. We believe that the funds work effectively as they turbocharge the work of local environmental champions and can make a difference with relatively small amounts of money by making sure that it's given to the right people. As a group, we're really hands-on and flexible funders, involving, empowering, and strengthening local communities with a truly bottom-up approach. Annie and Rebecca will attest that we really will do whatever it takes to support our local partners to create an impact, to help them build capacity and get them in a position to be able to deliver long-lasting positive change for their communities. So my role is to strengthen and grow this network in order to share best practice and to develop a kind of virtual global team. And it's more and more fulfilling by the day as I see really productive collaboration between different islands and countries on different ways to tackle local issues. Our operations are relatively lean on the ground, so in most cases it's just one sole employee. So it's really fantastic to see international relationships develop and to see my colleagues working together to share experiences, know-how and lessons learned on the way they operate. So, and I apologize because this does sound incredibly naff. We think we really are the embodiment of the slogan, dream global, act local. And on that, I realized I forgot to change my slide, but that's okay. I will hand over now to Annie and Rebecca.
Lovely. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar, this discussion, whatever. A huge thanks to the Environmental Funds Network, of course, for hosting us. It's lovely to be together with Jade, you know, representing the Conservation Collective, the family, you know, like it's a feeling that we are a member of the family. And this is very important, and of course, be together with Rebecca. I'm the executive director of the Cyclades Preservation Fund. I've started working with the family, with the CPF, the last 2.5 years. I'm very privileged. I'm very happy doing what Jade described as we try to do. You know, like bridge different communities, exchange knowledge, exchange best practices, and inspire, hear and inspire. So let me just say, give the floor to Rebecca to say hello, and we can start with the joint presentation that we have prepared for you.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having us. I think that, you know, as Jade has very well explained, we're part of a collection, a collective, all of us working towards preservation. I'm the director of the Menorca Preservation Fund, and I think Annie and I are going to go on and explain a little bit how we actually put these words into action and how we work at a local level. We all know that, you know, we've been suffering and now adjusting to this new reality during and maybe after, I'm not sure we're quite at the after COVID-19 yet. But we recognize the importance and the compassion and resilience of strengthening our community. And this is key when it comes to the way the environmental funds and the preservation funds in the conservation collective work. So we wanted to explain a little bit about us and our structure and how we work in general, link it a little bit to our new reality, but it's true that we're going to go through a few examples of projects that we have been supporting over the last just over 2 years, and how, you know, we were already working towards sustainability being our new normal. And it's just that now we hope and we feel that a lot more people are coming on board to this new way of thinking. So I'll hand over to Annie, and we'll go through a little bit our ways of working and then talk a bit more specifically to our projects.
I think we are two slides behind. So whoever, Jade, is that you or Florence? All right, there you go. Yeah, so join us, and thank you for joining us. Actually, keep doing what we were doing before the COVID crisis and what we will keep doing from now on. And now I feel that we have more audiences, you know, like ready to hear. As I told you before, I'm representing Greece. I'm representing the Cyclades. Actually, most of you may understand Cyclades as Santorini or Mykonos. Actually, it's a complex of islands, of 24 inhabited islands, with a lot of beauty, a lot of natural value, fantastic biodiversity, including wildlife. So this is, of course, one of the key pillars of our intervention and goal. To preserve, support the most vulnerable of our wild species, like the very rare Mediterranean monk seals or dolphins or sea turtles. And of course, working towards the mitigation of climate change, try to preserve the fragile ecosystems of our island. So this is, let's say, the number one of the pillars of our area of interest in the CPF. The second one, next slide, please, is trying to showcase, promote the examples of sustainable development. This is a general term, you know, we have been studying, you know, like sustainable development and environmental governance. And, you know, this is tricky because everyone may, you know, like understand sustainability in different ways. So I think we are exactly at the point where we face, after the shock of the pandemic, we really need to have a common understanding of what sustainability means. And actually, it doesn't, it's not necessary, you know, like to give huge. Sustainability matters, and you can see the difference in small projects. So what we're doing in a small scale, in pilot scale sometimes, in the different islands we're working on in the Cyclades, is exactly share to the people, share with the people, share with the communities and the local businesses, the way with a small change they can do a big difference. So to this end, we're working on projects that enable and promote green growth, that enable circular economy, that give the option for people to understand what green economy means and what green jobs can look like. And of course, here we have a flag, let's say the Plastic-Free Cyclades movement. In a small scale, under this umbrella, we're supporting several projects across the islands. I will share with you some of them later on. But most important, the next slide, please, is the third pillar, which is overall, you know, like what we're doing. And actually, if this is what I feel that makes me feeling more proud of anything else. It's not only the grants, you know, like that we're offering. It's not only connecting, bridging these different, let's say, communities. It's mainly working with the people on the ground. We are something that is between a foundation and an NGO. We're very hands-on. We make sure we listen to the needs of the local stakeholders, and we stand by them to make sure we plan accordingly and we deliver, let's say, something that makes sense to them, to the environment, and of course to the local economy. So this is maybe the cornerstone of our mission, to empower the local communities so that after 10 years from now, we will be proud to say that, you know, like the Cyclades is not only, you know, different islands, but all these different groups, all these local champions, all these guardians of the natural values of the island are all together a group. That's why one of the important things we're doing is building capacity and networking them, bringing them all together. And this is something that we do with forums and meetings we organize. And just to summarize, and the CPF in numbers, so we are almost 2 years old, on, let's say 2.5 years old. We've awarded so far 26 grants in different areas of interest, either about biodiversity or wildlife or marine conservation or plastic pollution or a big umbrella. We have started working with 25 different partners from different islands. Most of them are local partners, and also other experts who can have the know-how to transfer on the ground. More than 14 islands involved directly with our grants, and more than 150,000 euros invested so far in the local community. I think, Rebecca, it's time for you to continue for this short summary.
Thank you, Annie. So yes, just following on from Annie, so at the Menorca Preservation Fund, our general structure is the same. The idea is always to work from the bottom up. The idea for the Preservation Fund is that we support the local organizations who are already on the ground, and they're the experts. They're the ones that we feel are able to tell us what is needed, what are the biggest issues, what should be the priorities, and that we want to support and empower those those organizations, and sometimes they're not even organizations, sometimes in fact they're what we call our local heroes. They're people that are creating quite significant change at a local level just because of their love of the place where they live or they're brought up, or they're being impacted by something that they feel should not carry on in this way. So we have our particular focus on 5 different areas: marine conservation, landscape conservation, which includes local food, and then the smart and sensible management of waste, fresh water and energy. Obviously, when we're talking about islands, these things are absolutely vital when it talks about maximizing our resources and how we use these resources. We think that the support through local initiatives gives sustainability to what it is that we do. At some point, when you're supporting these organizations, often they're older than us and they've been here for longer, and they will carry on hopefully for longer, and we can strengthen that work that they're doing. And I think it means that the island is able to prosper sustainably if we're able to create this bottom-up support that we think is so vital in our work. We've also got the strength in Menorca, or the added value that Menorca was declared a biosphere reserve by UNESCO in 1993. So this was obviously over 25 years ago now, but it's something that has only really come into play, and that even Menorcans themselves have only started to understand and value in the last 2 to 3 years. I mean, we even supported a project very much at the inception of the Menorca Preservation Fund, where we organized these round tables about what is Menorca the Biosphere Reserve, because we felt that people just didn't understand it and didn't put the value that gives Menorca, which is about combining nature and the way we live as humans, and about, having a respect for both ways of living. In addition, the Biosphere Reserve has also been expanded to the sea, so we're now the largest marine biosphere reserve in the Mediterranean. So it just creates this platform for putting in place more of a sustainable strategy to the way that we live, and supporting projects going forward on a larger scale. You're contributing to it from the Menorca Preservation Fund, but then we have lots of different organizations, including the local government, involved. As a summary of the things that we've achieved since our inception sort of 2.5 years ago, Annie and I are pretty much on par as to how old we are and how long we've been working on this. And we've supported over 30 projects so far, 10 different organizations that we've been collaborating with. And we've been able to invest over 200,000 euros into local projects, which I think that it just goes to show that we've started at a time where people really feel the need to support and work in this area. Our natural environment is so vital, and we've had so many conversations around during COVID-19, kind of giving this space back to nature, and suddenly seeing these things happen that we haven't seen for years. We've had a turtle come and lay eggs on Menorca on the beach right next to my house, which was just absolutely magical. 2 weeks ago, there was a school, in fact, they called it a play school of sperm whales, spotted just off the north of Menorca, a whole group of mothers and babies. And, I think that this is it's just giving us a sign that we were already working in this area, but there's actually so much to do. And I think now, taking into consideration our new reality, there's just so much more space that we can work in. Annie and I now wanted to go on and kind of talk about the local level solutions to global problems that we've already been working on, and that we're continuing to work on, and that we feel can be, grow and expand. So these are a few examples of our stories from the field. So I'll hand it.
Yep. Thank you, Rebecca. Just to say that one, I think, unexpected consequence of the pandemic, is, in terms of the environment, of course, is that we got a glimpse of what we could have, if we could just try, to change some things. So I think this is something to remember, and values like patience and resilience and strengthening our communities comes now, on the table. So with regards to what you've said, it's just how we will convert, this crisis, which it was and remains a big challenge for all of us, right? And the local communities and the islands and the businesses, of course. How to convert this crisis from fear, to go to a vision. the risk we face to go to the opportunities. So these kind of opportunities we have seen already working on the ground. And this kind of stories we want to share with you, because these stories, I think, will be now the ones, and these local heroes, as we said, will be the ones to show the direction to the rest of the community, who is now waking up from the shock and tries to see, what comes next. And actually, because we know that at least from the tourism industry, things will not go better for the next 2 years or so. At least, like credible studies shows that. Okay, that's a lovely baby. Right, yeah. So the idea is for us now to elevate the voice of these champions and showcase some of the nice examples we've seen already working. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. That's the main point. So if we go to the next slide, we'll just see 2 of the many examples of the projects related to plastic pollution that we are working on the ground. This is, for example, a very popular one because it involves technology and innovation. Maybe you've heard or not, because this is something that a global, let's say, best practice that we show working in other countries. This is a sea beam technology, which is actually a floating rubbish machine that works in marinas and in ports. And we brought the first one in the Cyclades. Actually, now we are proud to have 2 of them in the Cycladic Islands. And we aim, like if we manage to raise more funds to bring more, to show exactly what kind of marine litter is in there. And actually the sea beam helps us show these terrifying pictures, the microplastics, the real threat behind the plastic pollution, the one that nobody can really see, but it's in there, it's in the sea, it's in the fish, it's in our plate. So actually what this project does is show us the way, like to move forward, raise awareness to the people in a way that they now understand, why we all, are so stuck in talking about plastic pollution and trying to persuade people to reduce single-use plastic for sure. In Greece at the moment, we have the new law, of course, under the EU directive, but there are things which are going better. At the same side, we have the pandemic bringing so much single-use plastic masks, gloves, like in all over the place. And you feel that suddenly you really need to fight harder to show to the people, to the businesses that, you don't really need to go back in order to remain, to have safety. Reusable is a safety solution. So we should keep working on bringing reuse, recycling, and all these other steps of circular economy again on the table of discussion, make people feel safe and at the same time proud to support a problem, because COVID may be here, but also plastic pollution is here, climate change is here. They never left the room. Another nice example of how we try to promote the circular economy is the establishment of the first marine litter station in Antiparos. That was the first one in Greece. Now more of them have been established in other Cycladic islands and not only. Here we beautifully engage and involve the local fishermen, who, by the way, is a difficult target for the ones who know, and they decide now to take out, to bring all these ghost nets that would be in the sea and put them in the right beams, let's say, in the right stations that we have created for them, and the right people will move them where they need to be moved to be reused and come back to the islands or to the other islands as a nice product. So these are very indicative, exemplary projects where you can see how the local communities can be engaged and involved and understand in praxis what we mean when we say circular economy, what we mean when we say plastic pollution, and how everyone who is part, of course, of the problem can be part also of the solution. I think the next slide, this is exactly the bigger picture now. We're not alone. As we are members of the Conservation Collective, a lot of other organizations and NGOs or foundations are working to the same direction. We are very proud being part of this new coalition, the Mediterranean Plastic-Free Islands Coalition, which has been created with other partners from Spain, Italy, and Greece in order exactly to promote a zero-waste society. We are submitting together joint proposals. One of the latest one has to do with the creation of a new plastic-free label that will be used from local businesses from the tourism and hospitality industry, which is very important because, it's not only the foundations or the civil society. If you don't involve the business, like if you don't involve the industries, if you don't create this dialogue, you will never have the success stories you want. So Rebecca, your turn, I think.
Thank you, Annie. So yes, I think going on from what Annie was saying, the Plastic Free Mediterranean Islands Coalition is a key example of ways that we can all at a local level do projects that then have a global impact or have a Mediterranean impact, for example. So plastic free, with all the different projects that we've been carrying out in order to reduce the use of single-use plastics in Menorca over the last 2 years, and the different organizations we've been working with, we've now created this coalition or this alliance called Plastic Free Menorca, who sits within the Plastic Free Mediterranean Islands Coalition. And within that, we've got Annie from the Cyclades, we've got the Ibiza Preservation Fund, there's another organization in Mallorca. So we're all really trying to work together and maximize our resources at the end of the day. So we're not reinventing projects time and time again, we're learning from each other. Plastic Free Ibiza has been a really successful implementation of this plastic free label, where they've created a methodology, they've worked on a business model which involves supporting local businesses to reduce their use of single-use plastics and understanding the impact that those plastics are having. And we are now learning from them and replicating it across different islands of the Mediterranean and improving it, because of course there's lessons learned, and a lot of these are pilot projects. But I think there's just so much value added in this way of working together, where we're really, really maximizing the resources and learning from one another. To feed into our plastic free project, we wanted to raise awareness of the chain of plastic and where our plastics end up. And as Annie has already spoken about, the microplastics that we find on the beach, we did a very small, a little campaign where the microplastics that we were collecting, I don't know if you can see this, but this is basically a little glass bottle that is full of microplastic beads. These are beads that we've been collecting with volunteers from the beaches of Menorca, and we've been handing them out as the souvenir of Menorca, and this has had a real impact on people realizing that actually often they think they're sitting on sand, and often what they're sitting on are these tiny balls of plastic, and that these micro beads have a huge environmental impact on animals, on the sea, on the fish that we eat. So we've got to carry on this chain. At the moment, we've collected, I think, over 13 tons of plastic in the last 2 years, just from volunteers clearing up on the beaches of Menorca. So there's a lot of work to be done in this area, but there's also a lot of collaboration which strengthens the work. The other area where we've been working, and one of the things that has been really related to, especially to COVID-19, has been climate change adaptation. We already had, as the Menorca Preservation Fund, we already had some small projects where we were trying to work with local farmers to improve the way they work in terms of the use of the resources, in particular when it comes to the use of water. So obviously we're on a small island, we have limited resources, and therefore everything we have is just rainwater collected. So we have supported them and funded for them to go back to collecting rainwater, only going back to their traditional rainwater collection methods. And this has been a small project, but that has had an impact of over 1,200 tons of water saved every year from our water reserves. This is now water that the farmers are collecting directly from the rain and using on the farm. So it just makes so much sense to think on these small projects that then have a real impact on our resources on the island. And then very related to COVID-19 was that as a result of the situation, our local farmers, local produce is an area where we've been really trying to push and support, because we want to increase the amount of food that we consume that is actually produced at a local level. But suddenly these farmers who have been doing these great projects didn't have anyone to sell their food to, because all the restaurants and hotels have been closed. So it's been a real challenge for them. It was a challenge for us to think, how could we support them? And in the end, what we've decided is that we wanted to ensure that this food was not wasted, but also we wanted to ensure the sustainability of our farmers and that they could carry on working. So it's ongoing, a project to raise funds to buy the produce. And then we've teamed up with the Red Cross, and this food is actually being donated in local produce food baskets to vulnerable families, or families who have found themselves in difficult situation because of COVID-19. So it's been a real circular project, but it's meant that we've supported the farmers and through the farmers cooperative to create an infrastructure that enables them to now deliver food, be it to households, be it to the Red Cross, and now, of course, to supermarkets. So it's something that was not really there in place before, but that we hope now will be able to mean that access to local produce has become easier, both at a business level and at a household level, and therefore this will increase the amount of local produce that people are accessing and wanting to buy. So it's had a real, we hope, long-term impact in that sense. Annie, I'll hand over to you because I think you've got another example in this area.
Yeah, by the way, this is one of the fantastic projects we're doing. We're going to follow for sure. It's a very fantastic example of how you link exactly, you know, this kind of needs. Yeah, very quickly, from back to the Cyclades, one of another great project which has to do with climate change adaptation, and again brings to the on the table, you know, like the discussion around, you know, the treasure we have around us, and sometimes we don't know it, you know. So now it's the time, you know, like to add value is the way some people, some local heroes indeed, I mean, try to regreen the Cyclades, which is funny, I guess, you know, like, because everyone knows that the Cyclades is a, you know, like complex of rocky islands. So it was funny because Ben, when I started, you know, like it was his vision, like, let's green the Cyclades, and I was like, oh my God, you know, like, what this guy is talking about. But exactly now I feel so happy that there are so many people, you know, like planting, you know, like trees and trying to use, you know, anti-erosion earthworks, you know, like by using simple material, always by using traditional techniques that our grandfathers used to do. And this is so simple when you realize how important it is, you know, like to keep the soil healthy, let's say, again. So to this end, we're trying also through environmental education to speak to the local communities, older people, younger people, to the youth, you know, like about the importance of the Cycladic flora, or of the importance or to regenerate the local ecosystem. That's why one of the symbolic, let's say, projects that we've done is the creation of the first Cycladic botanical garden with 75% of perennial species in there. So, and we are very proud of it. Going back to another project, which is again relevant to the local produce and to climate change, is how, and actually this is one of the favorite ones, is the Pick the Alien campaign. Actually here we face a real threat, you know, like alien species, exotic, we name them now exotic in order to make the people feel more familiar with them. But they're indeed species coming from other seas, coming to the Mediterranean because of the warmer temperature of the sea, because of climate change in the majority. So they are now in our local ecosystems and create huge problems because they destroy everything around us. So this means that we try now to give a motivation to the local fishermen to tackle them, you know, like to try to have them as target and not the endangered species, let's say, and bring them to the market. So what we're trying to do is, as we say, to fight through gastronomy, actually, these species, and transform again, you know, like convert again a threat into an opportunity. So have fresh fish for the visitors, you know, like on their plates, have the fishermen happy because they will have a lot of fish to fish, have also the economy happy and their restaurants, you know. So it's a total win-win situation. And I think, if I may, Rebecca, to continue to the next topic, which has to do with marine conservation, but stay again, you know, like in the sea. Another project, which is again focusing on the local fishermen, and it's again an exemplary project of sustainability, has to do with the promotion of fishing trips, of fishing tourism, where exactly here again, we have the example of the problem of overfishing. We have the problem of fishermen who struggle to have a decent income. And what we're doing is that we teach them, we train them, we promote them, we help them to go without leaving fishing, you know, as a profession, because they're very honored, you know, to be fishermen. So they would never change that. So they remain as professional fishermen, and at the same time, they open their boats, and now they can host visitors and share with them the experience, the original experience of fishing in the Aegean. Of course, with guidances for responsible and sustainable fishing practices. But here again, we have the fantastic example of sustainability and responsibility, where you have less fish stocks, you know, under pressure. So a benefit for the environment. You have happier fishermen because now they have an income coming from the visitors, coming from the clients, you know, visiting hosted in their boats. You have new jobs because the same fishermen will bring, you know, like new youth, you know, younger people who speak English, or they may even bring their wives on the boat, you know, like to cook and create a nice soup, you know, like from the fish they have just fished. So I mean, like amazing examples, which is so easy for the people to understand how they can make the difference by changing the mindset and connecting themselves with the market. I don't remember if the next slide, I think here comes, oh, yeah. So this is another nice example, how we link the previous project. The same fishermen, you know, like were witnessing these beautiful species, you know, like in the water, and they were feeling threat because the fish is less. Now both dolphins and monk seals and fishermen are chasing the same fish. So whenever they could see a monk seal near to their boat, that was a threat, because that would mean that the monk seal would destroy their nets, and that would be damage. Now the same fishermen are so happy and proud to show to the people who have on their boat, you know, that this incredible species, by the way, the 50% of the total population at the global level lives in Greece, and actually most of them in the Cyclades. We're so privileged now, and now this is so obvious, you know, like for the whole community, and this includes, of course, the visitors, the locals, the businessmen, the tourism and hospitality industry, and the fishermen themselves. I think I'm stopping now because I said a lot.
I think, thank you, Annie. I mean, I think that, you know, I think we've made it pretty clear how these projects at a local level, they have such an impact, both in terms of our communities, as we were saying earlier, and also in terms of responding to this new reality in which we take into account our natural environment much more in our way of living. I mean, you know, I'm not going to go into the details actually of our marine conservation projects. I think you've got it here on the slide in terms of what we've done, but I think that one of the key things that we have done is support research, and this is something that we talk about a lot, about how we have to have research and numbers in order to support the project. So we've been doing research into the vulnerable fish, the state of the Posidonia meadows, so that we can justify, when we're saying we want a new marine protected area created, then we can justify why it should be created and the results that will then have as this goes forward. So I think we've probably given lots of examples. I hope we haven't bored anyone, and we can now go on and have the new conversation. I mean, Annie and I put a couple of examples here because we were thinking about linking a new reality to more sustainable economic models, and ecotourism as one of those economic models. So we've given a couple of examples, but I think we can start the conversation if that works for everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rebecca and Annie, and Jade too. Not remotely boring. I was fascinated by all those examples and just loved seeing that monk seal picture. That is so lovely. So we've had a couple of questions in the chat box. Can we start there? The first one was from Harriet earlier on, and actually it was before you spoke a bit more at length about plastic pollution, but still I think the question holds, which is how much, I know you're linking up on the ground action across the Mediterranean on single-use plastic, but to what extent are you trying to link up the on the ground action to advocacy or campaigning that's targeting the people who are producing the plastic in the first place, the corporations, or policymakers who can shift the whole system in terms of the generation of that plastic in the first place? So is that something you're connected to?
I think it's a really good question. I think from our point of view in Menorca, at the moment, what's happened is that the plastic-free movement essentially has lobbied the local government, which means the Balearic government, and they brought in a really innovative law, must be just under 2 years ago now, which comes into play, well, COVID-19 has delayed it, but effectively it starts to be implemented in the next sort of 4 months, which already puts in place a lot of measures trying to reduce the use of single-use plastic. So it will make it illegal to use plastic straws, etc. So they're really trying to make a change. And I think as far as our lobbying has gone, in that sense, we feel that it's been a success, because we feel that the Balearic government are really on board with this plastic-free movement and they want to support it. we feel that there needs to be changes at a much higher level, and we to date are not at that level. We're not having those conversations, but of course it has to happen. But one of the things that I had this conversation really recently with someone who was saying to me, it would be so easy if the government would just make it illegal to use plastic, you know, and then we wouldn't have to be making the changes ourselves. And I said, yes, of course it would be, but I feel that we need to be proactive and we need to push for that change. If it's not coming from above, we can make a change from the bottom, which is what we're telling the people that we're working with, and it's what the supporters that are, you know, our volunteers are feeling, that actually if they're not going to tell us that we can't use a straw anymore, we're just going to stop using it ourselves. And if enough of us stop doing that and the demand stops for it, then there just won't be the need for the companies to keep buying them and so on. So it's a chain, and I think sometimes we have the position, we have more power than we realize as a collective.
Yeah.
So I hope that that's where we can generate the change.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Rebecca.
And if I may, from my side, yeah, I would say that most of course, advocacy and lobbying is very important. I would say that most of this work is being done by our partners. Of course, in a general level, because there are specific projects, for example, I can name one which is called Clean Blue Paros, for example, which is working exactly to this direction together with the local authorities, the municipality of Paros. Or there are other bigger NGOs and other bodies, you know, like the Laskaridis Foundation, you know, like who is working very close with the Greek government. So there are other bodies, let's say, you know, like at the same place, you know, like working towards this direction. So what we're doing is, you know, like not duplicate this work, but actually, you know, like fill in the gap. And for me, it's very important to have, you know, like the policy, but also have the civil society ready and mature enough, and the same with the private sector, you know, ready to implement when you have the policy, to make sure that everyone will accept this. Because as everything, you know, I don't know, but in Greece, this is so characteristic that you just have just a law and you really need to do it. You never do it. It's only when it comes from your side, you know, when you understand that you are part, you know, like of all this procedure, you will be then ready to do what you really need to do. So I would say that advocacy is very important. There are other players. We are opening synergies, and mainly we are supporting our partners to do so.
Great, thank you. Yes, I think it's a dance between those three areas of local action, government, corporate, and sort of making sure there's interplay there. So Amanda had asked a question as well, and everyone feel free to either write a question in the chat box or unmute yourself in a moment when there's time. But she was saying it's amazing how you changed the fishermen's views to be more sustainable, and what are your tips on how you persuaded them to change their behaviour? What motivated them?
Well, I really want to share this testimony from a fisherman who was explaining to us, you know, like how now he's so ecological sensitive that he even has a recycling bin in his boat, you know, like.
Oh, is that me or Annie?
Cigarette, everything in the sea. And now he sees, you know, like the need through the eyes of his clients.
No, it's all right. We can hear you again, Annie.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you fine now.
Okay. Sorry, maybe the connection is not good. So I was saying that whenever you try to persuade someone to do something, and you try to, you know, like that just teach him to do something, he won't do it. So I can say from my personal experience, you know, like only if they feel they need to do it. And in this case, for example, we see that people who now are working are more open, you know, like to interact with other people, and now they see how proud they feel whenever, you know, like someone comes and see the recycling bin in their boat. So I mean, like you can do it only when you experience the need, and now we can see also fishermen going themselves with their boats, you know, like picking up and doing cleanups, you know, like from the coast, which is fantastic. I mean, I would never imagine, you know, the same people 5 years ago, you know, like being the suspicious, you know, like the person who is usually, you know, like part of the problem, being now part of the solution. So working with them, building trust, I think, is the key, and not try to, you know, like not try to, how can I say, you know, like oblige someone to do something. They really need to understand from their own the need.
Thank you. So does anyone want to unmute themselves to ask a question? Oh, Thanks, Amber. So Amber is asking, how did you stop the oil drilling in the Balearics? They're facing a similar problem in the Bahamas, and no single organisation has managed to get this shut down once and for all.
So this was actually a really interesting collaboration that the Menorca Preservation Fund joined when we started as well, but the Ibiza Preservation Fund were the sort of the launchers of it, which was basically, as you just said, no single organization has managed to do it. It was not a single organization. What they did is they created an alliance, and the alliance involves small local charities, local businesses. It involves local councils, local government, all of the people coming together to say that they did not want it to happen. And it's still ongoing, and there are different, some areas have now been recognized as no drill areas, so therefore they can't do it anymore, and it's now going up to kind of national government level in order for that to be completely stopped. And other areas, you know, there's still this organization, this alliance that we're all part of, are still fighting to kind of expand the areas in which they're not allowed to keep drilling for oil. But essentially the way it works is that it was an alliance formed by all of these different entities that felt that this was such an important subject and such an important thing that had such a negative environmental impact that they had to pull together in order to lobby for this to stop.
And just to add quickly on there, I think also one of the things Ibiza will say they're most proud of in setting that up is that they am I right in thinking, Rebecca, it's almost part funded now by the local government in terms it was handed over to them, and it was kind of us enabling them to take matters into their own hands, but we kind of gave them that lift off. And we've looked at emulating the model in the Ionian Islands as well, where the kind of Greek government are prospecting for oil, and there are all sorts of issues coming up in terms of whether the right environmental impact assessments have been done. But I think the harder thing there is not having local governments on side, or not having them at this stage. But I think if you show the local governments that you can get all their key stakeholders together, they kind of have little choice once the voters are making the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it depends what the sort of administrative structure is, but here, of course, you have small local town halls, and then you have your island government, and then you have your islands government in the Balearics. So the small town halls, they got individual town halls to pledge support and get involved. So it grew from really from the ground, from the smallest organizations. It then grew up to these town halls. The town halls were then escalating it to the island government, who were then escalating it to the Balearic government. And in the end, the Balearic government also got involved. So it's been a slow, it's been a slow and steady process that is continuing and ongoing all the time. I mean, they're still very alive and very active, but they've had some really key achievements in this area.
Any questions from anyone else? Well, feel free to unmute yourselves and interrupt me, but I'm going to plow on with a question of my own, which is really just sort of practicalities. Where does the money come from? Are you raising money from individuals, from corporations, a mixture of them? Where does it come from?
Well, in principle, I think this is something that we all do in the Conservation Collective. Most of the donations come from individual donors. You know, like these are people who may have, who are homeowners or regular, you know, like visitors of the islands, or just people who love and care, you know, like about the environment and understand, you know, like and respect and understand the value of nature. Because actually, you know, like all these millions of visitors, I mean, like, why do they come? I mean, like, it's the beauty of the environment that we really want to preserve. So these are the individuals who are our supporters when we are thankful. There are, of course, other businesses, bigger businesses, local businesses that are engaged. There are a lot of projects which are co-funded by them. And what we are also trying to do, and we're very happy that we're very open in synergies with other foundations as well. So in some of our projects, there are also other co-funders from other bigger or smaller, whatever, it doesn't make any difference, you know, like, but other foundations. But actually, this is what we try to do. Bring resources, you know, like the Cyclades. It's not going to be only us, but it's important for us to guarantee, like that wherever we direct this money, it will be to credible, like through transparent procedures, like to people and organizations and associations who really are worth taking this money in order to make the difference. So this is, of course, a difficult time for everyone, for us as well. That's why we try to strengthen also our relations, let's say, with the existing donors and open to new channels, whatever. We are here, we are open, so everyone is welcome to join and support our cause.
Yeah, I think that, as Annie says, mostly the funding comes from individuals that are interested and that support the work that we do. And then I think something that we've been growing over the last 2 years is local business partnerships that not only do they help raise funds, but they help raise visibility. So they give us more access to more people. They help get our messaging out. I mean, we've had a number of collaborations with local businesses where they, sort of a restaurant that will add €1 per table and they add €1 to the bill. No one ever questions paying €1. In fact, more often than not, people ask to pledge a bit more than €1. But it means that suddenly we're on their radar and we exist for them. And then, often that can generate an email or an inquiry into what kind of work we're doing, and they'll have a specific area of interest. So that visibility, the funds are really important, but that visibility and having access sometimes to people that we wouldn't normally have access through our own channels is really important. And I think is an area where this year certainly is a challenge, because a lot of these businesses that are supporting us actually are not opening, or if they are opening, they're opening in such a difficult situation that they're unable to go the extra mile to support any external organizations at the moment. But also I think it's that getting your name out and getting our work out, which is why what you guys have done today and what the Environmental Funders Network has organized is just so helpful for us to kind of put us on the map and be able to let us explain our work and what we're doing. Because although COVID-19 is so relevant to what we're doing, what we were doing was already there. As Annie very well said before, this climate emergency already existed, and not that long ago, governments all over the world were declaring a climate emergency, and suddenly it seems like we're forgetting that was already the scenario which we were working in. And actually more than ever, those of us that are working in this feel that we need to kind of take this small kickstart that we've been given, this small opportunity that we've been given to give nature this push start and this space that it needs in order to recover. And so I think that, all fundraising opportunities and all opportunities where we're given the chance to explain our work are very much appreciated.
Great. Well, I'm going to...
Actually, sorry if I may, these same people are influencers, like they're spreading the word, and they're ambassadors for us, So we are very honored, like being linked with whoever is supporting our cause. That's why we are very, very open and thankful to everyone. And by the way, let me also thank the grantees and the partners we have. If we hadn't built trust with them, we couldn't do anything. So it's something that, shows who we are, like we are open to work with everyone and make sure we are on the same page with regards to the preservation of these youths.
Great. Well, one final question. You've got 1 minute each to answer this. Maybe you too, Jade, if you want to, which is, what do you feel most honoured to have been a part of through your role? Honoured or inspired or just overjoyed?
Shall I go? I think for me, I grew up in Menorca my whole life. My father had a sailing school here and my life was spent on the sea. And in these 36 years of life, I've seen a real change. In my lifetime, I've seen a change to what we would see when we went snorkeling 20 years ago to what we see now when we go snorkeling. And that has had an impact. So to now be able to be involved in an organization that is proactively contributing to changing it and to supporting us going back to what we were and looking after Menorca, for me is a total honor and a privilege. I just feel very, very fortunate and I love it. And every day we learn something new, and every day we're given the opportunity to contribute to something that can have a positive environmental impact on this lovely biosphere reserve of an island.
Thanks, Rebecca.
I would say, the fact that we make people not feel alone anymore, the fact that we work with all these local heroes, who were struggling for years and years, like to do what everyone should do. And now, when I'm introducing myself, I'm saying, like I'm representing a UK registered charity, and this is so impressive, like for these people, like, who just suddenly think that people from all over the world, like are caring about their land, are caring about their sea, and they have the same vision. So this is very touching, I need to say. That's why I'm saying that, working with people, like who share the same, like values is so important. So we give power to these people. This makes me also proud and want to keep continue doing what we're doing.
Thanks, Annie. Any final words?
Yeah, I think I've already said, working with this kick-ass team and all these great women and men around the world. So I think for me, it's, I've always been passionate about the environment, and as I know so many people are, but what I think so exciting and what I enjoy so much is seeing these solutions that the girls have discussed today, that we're actually looking at a tangible thing like a sea bin, or a way of restoring traditional water collection methods, but not feeling kind of. And I think it helps donors and those local supporters, or the people who we've got on within our supporter base. It helps them see how they can contribute to massive global problems and issues at such a local level. And I really enjoyed sort of being connected with those practical and tangible solutions.
Well, thank you all. You really give me hope. And Annie's comments about people don't feel so lonely anymore. I feel the same when I see lots of people showing up to hear stories like this, to know that I'm not the only one who cares. So I really appreciate that, and delighted to have learned more about what you're doing. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We are waiting for you.
Thanks,
in the Cyclades and to Menorca, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Come and visit.
We are open and safe. Please come and visit. Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Florence.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.